Hotel maids of Reddit. What is the weirdest or most disgusting activity you have walked in on while you were about to clean the room? NSW. I was room service for a few years. I served a 50-60-year-old French Canadian dude who was in nothing but short shorts with a 18-ish-year-old Asian boy in full scuba gear on the bed. 18. I was really not prepared to learn how many people smear their crap all over hotel rooms. I'm starting to think I'm the weird one for pooping in the toilet. Front desk here, working right now. Hell, we have had many shenanigans happen. A very nice businessman with a briefcase checked into a room. Really a very nice person. Didn't hear much from him all night other than him asking where the liquor store was. Upon morning, he had checked out and left without talking to the desk. Not uncommon. When the maid went in to clean the room, she found quite the surplus. Apparently this man had a mild case of alcoholism. He had bought 2 bottles of booze and proceeded to drink it all, as well as spill some onto the phone, puke all over, and the worst, crap everywhere, in the bed, on the floor, in the tub, on the shower curtain, all over the toilet, and tried to clean his mess up with all the towels. Needless to say, we have his name hanging up on the list of people who cannot rent a room. I used to be a night auditor and I have my own stories as that, but the one housekeeping story I always remember was when I was coming off shift one morning after covering a few extra hours for the day shift when one of the new housekeepers ran to the desk and said someone was being attacked on the 3rd floor. So I grabbed my manager's keys and headed upstairs and was barely off the elevator when I heard what was very much not someone being attacked. She was screaming her head off though and he sounded like he was obliging her repeated requests for harder. A few guests were standing around the hallways listening. Most found it funny but I radioed the front desk to accidentally give the room a wake up call to settle them down. Poor housekeeper was sitting in back shaking because she thought someone was being murdered in their room. This now explains that phone ringing in the last Brazzers clip I watched. A stag party, bachelor party, was staying in the hotel I work in, and they got ridiculously drunk one night before retiring to their rooms. The next day after they checked out, we went into their room only to be greeted by the foulest smell I've ever experienced. Upon entering, we discovered that the 2 guys sharing one room had not only vomited, but had crap everywhere in this room. All over the beds, the floor, in the bin. Some of it was even smeared up the walls. I can only imagine that they were so intoxicated that they lost all control of their bodily functions. No wonder they checked out so hastily. In conclusion, that room had to be completely refurbished. New beds, new carpet, new paint on the walls. It was weeks before it was usable again. Needless to say, the culprits were contacted and made to pay the cost of damages as they'd obviously tried to escape without blame. You know, I'm starting to feel less guilty about leaving the quilt folded but on the floor. Never any activity in progress, but I've definitely cleaned up the aftermaths of very interesting activities. There was the poop room. A young couple with 2 babies leaves after 3 days. I walk into a shitstorm of actual crap. Poop on the walls, poop on the carpet, poop on the sheets, poop on the towels, poop as far as the eye could see. No tip. I literally shed tears of self-pity as I cleaned up the remnants. Another good one was what could only be assumed was a bachelorette party that left me a bit of an gift, an intricate, free-floating web of yarn intertwined with at least a full deck of playing cards featuring 1970s P-stars hung, no pun intended, majestically from where the curtains once were. The worst part was that my supervisor made me take it to the lost and found, where I was forced to come up with a description of the item. I went with hanging pornography mobile, while blushing and giggling hysterically. Well, I work the front desk at the hotel, but my friend who I used to work with was the houseman and he told me this story once. So it was checkout day for this room, and if the guest haven't come to the front desk by 11:30 am, checkout is 11 am, then we call the rooms. This particular room didn't pick up the phone when we called from the front desk, which isn't that unusual as sometimes people just leave the hotel without checking out. Anyway, my friend, the houseman, goes up to check that the room is clear empty, but he can't open the room with his master swipe key. It was dead bolted from the inside. So we get the all clear from management to open the door and get maintenance to open it with their override keys. The houseman walks in to find the woman still in bed asleep. He says, "Mom, It's time to wake up and touches her leg. Stone cold, rigor mortis. TL. DR. My friend touched a cold dead body because he thought they were asleep. I'm a 4th generation Alberta oil field worker and my dad told me a story about a frat crew in a Alberta hotel. I don't know if you guys know, but a frat crew is a large group of men, sometimes women, but not many, between 20 and 50 guys, and they vary in age from 18 to their mid 50s. The crew decided that for some reason, this was the perfect night to get absolutely hammered drunk and freak up some crap. They had multiple complaints, and when the front desk staff finally sent up the cops to start kicking asses out, they discovered that the large and very inebriated group had decided that they wanted to party together, but the single room was too small, so they had smashed the wall out between 2 rooms. I'm assuming that those who participated no longer had careers as frackers with that particular company. I had a guy from Alberta come into the adult shop I work at, in BC, and say he wanted to order 50 fleshlights to sell up in camp for quadruple what he paid. I really thought this was where this story was going. Former F&B manager, front desk manager and catering manager, at different times. While working the desk one morning, a housekeeper came up to the front desk, pale as all heck, shaking, saying we needed to call the police. Apparently, a young woman checked in around 2 AM the night before and performed, or attempted to perform, a self-abortion. There was blood all over the bed, carpet, chair, walls, door, bathtub. Looked like a murder scene. We originally thought that's what happened, but the investigation revealed what happened. Horrific. A guy I worked with told a story of how he got called to a room back when doors had round doorknobs. He couldn't open the door because the guy inside the room kept screaming when anyone attempted to enter. Turns out, the guy on the inside had the doorknob up his ass and it was stuck. My mom worked in her family's boarding house in the early 1950s. She went up to clean a room that had been inhabited by a few recently discharged servicemen. One of the guys apparently snored so loudly that to get revenge, his buddies left without waking him. My mom went up and threw back the covers to find the offending snorer, buck naked and sound asleep. She screamed. He woke up, and in his words fell in love with her that very moment. And that's how my dad met my mom. They had to date on the sly because her parents didn't take too kindly to their 16-year-old daughter finding a naked man up in one of the rooms. So, my dad's buddy, my Uncle Pat, would pick my mom up for a date, take her to my dad. They would then go on a date, and then Uncle Pat would meet up with them and take my mom home. This lasted until somebody got somebody preggers. TL. Doctor, my mom finds my dad naked in room, marries him. As I sit here, I am going through a box of old photos with tears welling up in my eyes. Yeah, I'm sentimental as frick. My big boy cat Bub Jenkins keeps nudging me with his big boy cat head and purring the way he always does when I'm emotional. Tonight's been a good night. I've heard of the show How I Met Your Mother but have never watched it. I'm thinking this naked man works 2/3 times. Must be from the show. Can someone explain please? Ah, a love story. So refreshing in amongst all these poop nightmares. As a housekeeping supervisor I didn't observe anything too extreme, but why do people have to do weird crap with their crap? I have never had a problem missing the toilet or crapping the bed my whole life, and these people do it during a quick stay at a hotel. One time in particular it appeared someone did some fecal finger painting all over the bathroom. It looked like someone murdered a chocolate Easter bunny. One of my friends who studied psychology said that there are people that do it for physical gratification, but that a lot of the time people go through this weirdly specific kind of breakdown where they feel powerless for whatever reason, and to gain control again they smear crap everywhere. Evidently it happens pretty often to otherwise normal healthy people. I used to work as a housekeeper in a hotel with themed fantasialites. We had an underwater room, an igloo room, even a space-themed room with a spaceship bed. This particular room was the jungle-themed room, complete with a king-size swinging bed. We always knock a few times and announce we're entering through an open crack in the door, but I suppose the occupants of the room couldn't hear me over their fricking times. I know walking in on people fricking is maybe more common or the weirdest or most disgusting, but these two happen to be around 500 pounds each. Slow motion, swinging, Sweaty, loud, gelatinous pounding. They didn't see me walk in, but I still yelled out sorry unnecessarily and awkwardly loud and slammed the door. This hotel was in southeastern Wisconsin. I worked there about 10 years ago and it's since been closed. My mom used to be a hotel maid. She told me a story of how she went into a room. There was no do not disturb danger and walked in on two men freaking. Nothing weird really, just that this was the 70s and my mom was new to the country and she'd never seen two men together before. So she was in shock and just stood there, wide-eyed and staring. The men shouted for her to get out and she apologized profusely. She felt bad but they didn't have a sign. I like the sheer curiosity factor in this anecdote. Most disgusting. Somebody had wiped his feces on the sheets. Totally disgusting. Luckily lovely older colleague with me took one look and said you take the next one. You're too young for this crap. I was 15. The most weird has to be the bloke who holed up in his room for 10-12 days, asked for extra blankets, which he used as blackouts over the curtains, and constantly asked at the bar for lemons. Only came out at night really, when he'd order 10 plus soft drinks from the bar, dip each cig from a pack of 20 in them, then line up the soggy cigs. Breakfast order was 12 hard-boiled eggs. Then when he'd venture out, in daylight, he'd take the time to rearrange the shelves in the local shop. Strange man. Found a plate full of lemons, sliced, with the steak knife, on top of a wardrobe when cleaning after him. Strange, spooky man. Oh yeah, he also wore only black. Big coat, hat, scarf draped over hat. During the hottest summer to date, it was bloody warm. Time traveler. Not a hotel, but a true cleaning story just the same. I worked for a cleaning company when I was in high school. We got an emergency call to clean up a private residence. I was the only one who could go. The folks had a Great Dane. They also had a gallon of peanut oil. The dog knocked the peanut oil over and it spilled everywhere. Then, being an opportunist, the dog lapped up all of it he could. I imagine the real issue started a couple of hours later. As the dog began getting the runs, it evidently scared him. He must have sprinted throughout the house with the oily runs chasing him as he fled. There was even a trail across their long mahogany dining table. TLDR. Shitstorm. I'm cracking up at the thought of this big dumb dog galloping through the house bewildered by his own spewing butthole. Laundry assistant housekeeper for a nursing home here. Walked in on a couple residents masturbating throughout the years. This year I walked into the room of one of our nastier residents and found him with his pants down and he had freaking maggots crawling all over his junk. Apparently he'd refused a shower for several weeks, if not longer. He's been sent to another facility. Till that hotel rooms are vile and disgusting and that I should never stay in one. Not me, but a friend. He worked maintenance and got a call to fix a broken door latch. As he approached the room, a 13-year-old girl comes storming out, yelling at her parents that she wasn't watching this again. Girl lets my friend in the room. Then crap gets real. The girl's mom and dad are 250 and 300 pounds, respectively. Friend says he's there to work on the door. Both parents are laying underneath the covers in bed, which is nothing that odd. They tell my friend to get to work, and as he starts pulling out his tools, both parents get out of bed. They're completely naked, and proceed to start porking doggy style on the end of the bed. My friend says he'll just come back. The dad screams for him to keep working as he loudly plows his wife. Friend can hardly work because he's so shaken up. He never looks back, except for one time on his way out the door. When he sees that the dad was so fat, he laid his belly up on top of his wife's back, and had a chocolate milk in his hand. And had a chocolate milk in his hand. Maybe he knows something I don't. Okay, not a maid, but I was a front desk worker who had to go to rooms after everyone else left. So this old guy who just checked in with his old leather bag wife called up and said something along the lines of, "Hey, we were told that you could hook up a DVD player and it's not working. You had better fix it." So I went up there and there he was shirtless wearing short shorts and his wife is obviously topless with a sheet covering while smoking and pouring vodka into wine glasses. So nervously I attach the DVD player and it's a porno DVD already going. Husband says thank you overeagerly while touching my shoulder. To make it worse, I heard the old leather bag say, "I wonder what time his shift ends. Maybe we could invite him." I no-tiled the way back to the front counter and wouldn't go near that room until they left. I was a room service dude for a few years. A lady had a miscarriage in her bed and cuddled the fetus for a few days. That was pretty messy. That's dang. I've been a housekeeper for a few years now. I only have a few notable experiences, but I work at a pretty high scale hotel, so that may be a factor. One of my first rooms ever I will forever refer to as the consummation room. It was one of our suites, and first walking into it, there were hundreds of fake rose petals all over the floor, a bottle of wine and 2 used glasses. Nothing crazy. My co-worker told me she'd handle the living room and I should strip and make up the bed. I walk in the bedroom and there's a few more wine glasses, a nice amount of condom wrappers on the floor, whatever. But the bed, I lifted the top comforter only to witness the grossest swamp of hymen ruination and girl juice ever. It had seeped like crazy to the outer edges of the bed, leaked through the sheets into the mattress. The first thought I had was, perverted as it was, well, she must have been a squirter. Another time a man I was making a bed for invited me to his room for drinks and a good time. I made sure not to bend over at all while putting his towels away. I can't say I've walked into anything too weird though. Generally people do a good job of covering up their nastiness until they are on their merry way out the door. Not really walked in on, but one of the strangest thing I've ever experienced. I work in small hotel bar in the middle of rural Alberta. The staff here are pretty close and we all know each other. One morning in the fall, one of the staff found a box outside one of the hotel side door exits, soaked in blood and filled with fresh organs. Needless to say, he was shocked by it, but not to worry. Being a hunter, he knew it was not human. He went to the front desk to announce his odd and disturbing findings. Confusion spreads. About an hour or so later, questions were answered and then more questions were asked. The chambermaids found the source. In one of the rooms had blood covering the bathroom tub and various areas. The guest had somehow killed a deer, brought it into the hotel side door and butchered it in the room. TLDR, panic in hotel. Only one life lost. I've seen a lot of posts on here about period fricking or poop ruining sheets and towels, and how they just threw it all out. Don't these people get charged for that? I mean, every hotel I've been to has required a credit card on file before I got the room. Serious question. This is why they take the credit card info and it, even if you pay cash, or at least the smart ones do. I walked in a couple fricking once. No biggie, right? Didn't scream, just blushed slightly and beat a hasty retreat. They left the hotel at 1 PM, half an hour before my shift ended. So I was in a rush to get the room done so I could go home. I figured it wouldn't take me long. I was wrong. 2 words for you. Period fricking. Let me add here that I'm not opposed to the idea of period fricking in principle. What I'm opposed to is cleaning up after someone else's period fricking. They'd put down towels to save the sheets. Thoughtful, but they used the hotel's towels. Had to throw them away in the end. The towel wasn't big enough though, obviously, since the sheets were blood-stained too, and the comforter, which they'd hidden in the wardrobe. I kind of thought that a murder had occurred at this point, since there was blood everywhere, but the bin in the bathroom, which was overflowing with used tampons, confirmed my initial suspicions. They didn't bother to use the sanitary bags provided. A quick aside. Note to any ladies reading this, if sanitary bags are provided, use them. It's a health hazard to just leave bloody tampons in a bin. Anyway, I didn't finish my shift until 2:30 PM. It was okay though, since I wasn't really in the mood for lunch anyway. Just a thought for everyone. When you use a hotel towel, just think, this could be a period fricking towel that was washed instead of thrown away. Ugh. Did this job for a while. Worst job I ever had. So much phlegm and jizz in the showers. Every single day. Like not just one gross person but multiple gross people. Every goddamn day. Also really badly blood-stained sheets. I just hope that it was messy period fricking and not some horrifically violent physical shaming, and tried not to think about it. Before this I felt bad about using 2-3 towels for the shower over the course of my stay, instead of just using one. Till I'm the only person who puts the do not disturb sign on the door when I masturbate in hotel rooms. I expected to see someone comment about that guy who puts headphones on and jacks off and films it when the cleaning ladies walk in. His videos are on Frat. Just on the other side of things, when I was staying in a hotel I once had a maid walk in right as the girl I was freaking orgasmed really loudly. We heard a crash as they sprinted out the room. I ran after them, naked because we were scared and they just left the whole trolley of cleaning supplies. I checked, the room security was still set to private, so they shouldn't have come in. Looking back I can understand why they would leave their stuff behind if a naked man started running out of his room at you. Sorry for any traumatized maids out there. That's what all those extra locks are for. Man-made here. I never walked in on anything, but I touched a small dot of poop that I thought was a cigarette burn in the bathtub. I wish I could've seen my face. I'd wager there are many maids who would love to trade places with you if that's your worst experience. I was planning on going to apply for a housekeeping job at a hotel tomorrow. Frick this thread. I know, it sounds like a nice, quiet job, and I know how moderately disheveled I'll leave a hotel room, but other people seem to crap too much. Not me, but a friend worked as a maid at a hotel for quite a while and there was a couple staying that had been there for around 3 months. The woman staying was morbidly obese and pretty much stayed in bed constantly because of her size. Alright I suppose, but in these 3 months they refused room service every day. So to clarify, this woman stayed in bed all day and didn't have her bed changed once in 3 months. Finally after 3 months the couple came to the desk and said they were leaving but refused to pay anything and just said they did not have the money. They left and of course the hotel called the police. Nothing could have prepared the maids for what they were about to walk into. The walls had been smeared with crap and other bodily fluids. There were stacks and stacks of moldy fast food and cups sitting on the tables and the grime in the bathroom had reached a new level of disgusting. The worst thing though was the bed. It turned out the woman had not only stayed in bed, but had not bothered to leave to go to the bathroom, so there were pee and crap stains all over. The mattress was still damp and as you can imagine the smell was unbelievable. Pretty much everything in the room had to be dumped and the room professionally deep cleaned due to the smell. Even the carpet had to be changed because of mysterious stains which no one wanted to investigate. So this one time I was at work with one other girl and we had cleaned about 20 rooms that day. No stayovers, so it took a good couple of hours. We go to our last room at checkout time and we knock on the door and the door slowly opens. Oh my god. There stands a guy no taller than 5 feet, ripped clothes, track pants, dirt all over, like his face and everything. His hair was a mess and had the grossest beard I've ever seen. He clearly lives on the streets and hasn't showered in a few weeks. He tells us he isn't ready to check out yet, so we leave and go wait at the front desk. Our manager tells us he came in with a voucher for one night from the Salvation Army. Okay, whatever. So finally we see him leave and go to the room. Remembering what he looked like should have prepared us for what we were about to see, but nope. We open the door and the smell hits us instantly. We walk over to the window to help air it out and notice sweatpants on top of the TV. He peed himself and left his pants here. Not okay. I walk over to the bathroom as the other girl starts stripping the sheets and I notice crap smeared all over the shower. Really not freaking okay. As I am standing there trying to figure out what I am gonna do, all I hear from my coworker is, "Are you freaking kidding me?" I walk out and she's pointing to the bed and said he peed the bed. Great, now we need to bring a new mattress up from the basement. But oh wait. She goes to lift up the sheets and what do you know? Crap freaking everywhere. At this point we're both pee off to the max and disgusted. We call our manager and he comes in, gets his wife to take care of the crap room and all was well. That job freaking sucked. Got some good stories from there though. TL. DR. Homeless guy stays at hotel and shoots everywhere, leaving everything behind. Gag. He comes in, gets his wife to take care of the crap room and all was well. Not for his marriage. I wasn't the one doing the cleaning, but this actually hit me pretty hard when it happened. New Year's Eve 2011, myself and a couple friends were out visiting my frat boy cousin at UCLA. We attend the frat's massive New Year's party that night. We all proceed to get incredibly drunk and have an all-around great time. I passed out sometime around 2 or 3 in the morning. I wake up to complete and utter devastation. At some point in the night, a careless partygoer slammed into a makeshift bar, knocking over an entire Gatorade cooler full of jungle juice. Nobody bothered to clean it up at the time, so in the morning, it felt like the floor was covered with epicsy. There was puke, crap, god now sweat in the bathrooms, the bedrooms, the common room couches, you freaking name it. Red solos everywhere, wounded soldiers littering every windowsill and tabletop in the house, etc. Keep in mind, the house was not exactly small. There were 7 or 8 rooms, each housing 2 or 3 people, with even more sleeping over more often than not. At the peak of the party, there were well over 150 people packed into the house, with enough drugs and alcohol to sedate Xerxes' army for a week. Upon waking up, sometime in the early afternoon, my friend and I leave the room we crashed in, and go out on the deck for a cigarette. That's when I see her, a friendly looking middle-aged Hispanic woman on her hands and knees scrubbing the floor furiously. My heart immediately sank. How long had she been there? Surely she's been at it a while. There's no garbage in sight, and the bathroom is spotless. Unreal. Here's the kicker. There's a little kid, probably around 9 or 10, sitting patiently on the couch playing an old Game Boy. He looks up at me for a second as I emerge from the room, quite obviously hungover, says nothing, goes back to playing his game. Frick. My buddy and I finish our cig, and head out to grab a bite to eat. We stroll around town for another hour or so, and return at 4:30. She's still freaking there, scrubbing the floor, still trying to get the last bits of booze out of the freaking floorboards. Her kid is still freaking sitting on that same couch, playing his Game Boy. As we walk into the room, he looks up again, waves, then goes back to his game. He's actually freaking used to this. I can't imagine half my childhood being spent waiting for my mom to finish cleaning up after overprivileged frat boys every freaking day. That made me really sad. I'm really late to this thread, so it'll probably get buried, but I like to think I'll learn something that day. My grandma worked in a motel back in the 50s in New Mexico, and a group of priests came in once and crap in a small trash can. So there's that. I worked at what I affectionately dub a W-infested crack den. Some of the gems. 1. First day dead body. Woman had offed herself because she found her husband cheating. Empty bottle of wine and pill bottles on nightstand with a note. Manager was mad because she'd crap everywhere and we couldn't rent the room till we replaced the mattress. 2. Woman who had medical issues. She was there for 2 weeks and when she finally left we had to hire a professional cleaning service because she had crap everywhere. It was like she'd locked her dog in there, but it was liquidy and trodden everywhere like a colostomy bag had busted and she just didn't care. 3. Girl steps out of her room. Housekeeping walks in and finds a pile of drugs on the table. Coke lined up, H needles next to spoons, the works. She calmly locked the door and went to the front desk where we then locked the room down and had cops waiting for them to return. Turns out girl was underage and her 30-something pimp was having a party in there with her. 4. Pot plant growing in the back lot. 5. Corn cobs attached to walls, on the bed, under the mattress, lubricants everywhere. IT was on the ceiling. We still do not know how. Luckily they wore condoms, but left them all over the floors. 6. Chick got kidnapped from a local club and tied up in the room for a day or so. Got out and called the cops, which was a fun surprise when I came into the hotel. There's more, but those are the highlights I usually mention when people ask about my time there. My mother works for a hotel and she would have a customer who would come by every Tuesday at 2 PM with a different woman every week. He would always leave the room pretty messy but nothing too out of the norm. But this particular week he brought a particularly heavy-set African American woman and he checked out much earlier than usual. When my mother went into the room she smelled a foul stench and right in the middle of the bed was a large pile of human crap. She threw out the bedding. Poor mom. I'm not a hotel worker or anything, but one time my husband and I were staying at a hotel and bought some chocolate body paint. Well, I painted his knob and then licked and bobbed that sucker for a while. Afterwards I noticed that my drool and the paint had run down his balls and created a very disgusting looking puddle of pooish colored mess. I'm sure the housekeeper thought she was washing poop too. This is a silver lining story. Sometimes the poop you think is poop is just poopy chocolate dong drool. You live up to your name, and I love it. I worked in room service at a hotel and got to enter many rooms every night. The most disturbing delivery was to a room with a drunk guy in his late 20s who was obviously partying with 2 girls who couldn't have been more than 15. They ordered several cocktails. I immediately told my boss what I saw, but he said we couldn't prove those drinks were for the kids and did nothing. Then I delivered a single bottle of water to a room of an old man. On the table were scattered foreign magazines with gay obscene images. The bottle of water was for a late teens early 20s guy who struck me as a total H. I was tipped $20 and given a wink, probably encouraging me to come back after my shift to have a threesome. Another time I delivered food to 3 amazingly hot women who looked like they just walked off the set of Brazzers. One of them was recovering from a boob job and the other 2 were there for support. A girl in recovery was in a bathrobe and clearly still on pain meds. The other 2 were in boy-sized Batman and Superman briefs and wife beaters. They were super nice and tipped big. One time a woman just divorced her husband and checked into a really nice suite. She consumed 4 bottles of fairly expensive wine in about 4 hours. On her 5th call I took her order but went to her room empty-handed. I asked if everything was okay and we had a heart-to-heart talk for about an hour. She had every intention of drinking herself to oblivion or death. She checked out the next day. My manager was a huge cokehead, and he would always get ski-eated out of his mind after work at the bar in the hotel. To keep me there and for someone to talk to endlessly, he let me drink as much as I wanted for free after closing, and we were the only 2 people left. One night we stayed so late partying that the front doors opened and the day crew started coming into work. That was humiliating and I'm amazed we weren't busted. I know I'm late to the dance, so this will probably get buried, but when I was a young, I cleaned motel rooms in Missoula, Montana. Phish came through town, and our humble establishment somehow ended up playing host to legions of Phish fans. Oh my crap. Cleaning those rooms was the most vile thing that I have ever experienced. Boxes upon empty boxes of lice killer, used condoms laying on the carpet, vomit everywhere, and occasionally a used needle. Oh Christ, the vomit. I can still smell the rank, crusty, 12 hours old hippie vomit. Zero problem with hippies, for the record. Just the crusty, dirty, prolific vomiters. TL. Dr. Dirty Hippies are called dirty hippies for a damned good reason. Housekeeping supervisor here. I've had to call the cops and then help bust a guy posting Craigslist gloryhole ads in our hotel. That is, he would be the mouth on the other side. He had a fake folding wall he had set up right when you walked into the room with a hole in it. I'm not sure if we caught him before he got any action, but that wall looked pretty used. When I was 17 I worked at a hotel in housekeeping, and aside from having to crawl into big jacuzzis to clean out nasty stuff it wasn't so bad. But once, I was called to a room and 2 women answered the door and invited me in, saying they needed the room cleaned and that their gross husbands have clogged the toilet. See, this would have been fine if their husbands weren't left behind to watch me. Those 2 weirdos laid on their beds with no TV on, mind you, and watched my every move as I cleaned and vacuumed and bent over. It was awful, and then I had to unclog their diarrhea toilet while they watched. Worst day at that job. I'd rather find condoms and bloody sheets. Searching for the housekeeper who found my brother after he'd killed himself. It was in Destin, Florida, and I think about that poor housekeeper a lot. If you're Redding, I'm really sorry you had to witness that. It was very unkind and inconsiderate of him. During school I worked as a cleaner at a caravan park for a few summers on the east coast of England. During this time I heard one especially disgusting story from some people who had worked at another place further up the coast. When cleaning the caravan's chalets we were meant to always check the kettles and throw any old water away, but some cleaners were a bit lax on this and left it out. So some guests arrived one day and, being British, the first thing they did was turn on the full of water kettle to make tea. However, as it boiled they noticed something wasn't quite right about it, and upon further inspection it turned out that the previous guests had left a giant crap in it. This was just gossip, but frankly given the type of customer these places attract I'm fairly confident it's based on the truth. Worst I personally came across was a huge pee stain on the carpet in a bedroom, and I know it was pee because whilst wondering what it was I knelt down to smell it. Not a fun job. My mom worked at a motel called the Ramada. She said she went to clean a room for a guest that was staying for another night and found a couple really strung out junkies shooting up. She said there was vomit everywhere and the room was absolutely trashed. She said she nearly got sick from the smell. She also said the toilet was clogged and there were fesses all over the bathroom. She apparently walked back to the front desk and just quit her job, mostly because of the constant harassment she had received from her manager. Apparently tons of terrible crap goes down in that hotel. All these make my cheese-it crumble on the carpet seem so small. I still feel bad about it. You have been visited by the fashion doggo. Comment your envy strengthens me so you always look beautiful. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.